Hello and welcome to this, another one of our little podcasts. This is Phil and Hugh. Phil, who is Phil at threeboys.com, is that, or .com or
.co.uk, chap, yes.
.co.uk.
Very parochial about these things.
And me, Hugh Waters. I think Phil's going to pop up those ubiquitous websites so you know where to find us.
Yes, indeed. Yours is there, Hugh at hjwaters.co.uk, and I'll put up your Twitter handle as well. And there's a page from my technical blog, so watch out for those lower thirds. What are we talking about today, Hugh?
Well, it's something which I think is probably not so much close to your heart as close to your spine. It's the contents of Phil's rucksack, which may on the surface sound even less interesting than Maine's, but it's actually a great jumping off point for the kind of kit that a good broadcast engineer like my good friend over there should carry with him, or might want to carry with him to help him through the busy day. So, Phil, over to you. What do you carry around apart from your sandwiches?
Well, yeah. There's always sandwiches, and if you're a cyclist like me, of course, a puncture repair kit is essential. But it all kind of goes back to I suppose I started at the BBC in the 80s and at Lime Grove Studios, and so I would periodically have to go up to the television centre, which is about a mile away, and I'd periodically have to pop into town to Broadcasting House, and or maybe you're out on a news OB or something like that. So I was very much in the habit of carrying around just kind of a few essentials in a bum bag. It was the late 80s after all, so you can kind of forgive me for that. But just having those few essentials with you, so you weren't kind of stuck and looking embarrassed when you got called to do a bit of fault finding, on location or in a facility or a place where you weren't normally working. And when I left the BBC, started working for other facilities, I always kind of had the role where I'd often be taken out to an OB truck to sort something out or whatever, and so I kind of got this sort of habit of having a minimal kind of rucksack toolkit, not your big heavy toolkit that spends most of its time sitting on the workbench in the workshop when you're fixing a VT or whatever, but a minimal toolkit that fits in your rucksack that can go with your sandwiches and your laptop and all the other paraphernalia of a jobbing technical person. The company I work for now, Route 6, since we build facilities for all and sundry, I'm often called on to quickly diagnose a fault or go somewhere where I wasn't planning to go and sort something out. So a little kind of rucksack toolkit with a few little kind of home-brewed bits of test kit, as well as sort of more traditional multimeters and things like that. I think it's kind of useful for our brother engineers to sort of know about. I suppose the first thing, and people get very kind of fussy about this, is a multimeter. You often hear old engineers talking about the mighty Avo 8, which was a favoured model of high-quality multimeter many years ago.
I've got a good old Taylor. I'm very fond of my old Taylor, which is a contemporary.
But nowadays with solid state electronics and you can pick up a really quite accurate, very good, very very fully functioned multimeter for £30-40, and if you want to push the boat out and buy a fluke, £100 buys you something very respectable, which can measure full ranges of impedances and AC and DC voltages and currents, and they often come with transistor testers in there and things like that, and often with a little beeper for continuity, which is useful if you're having to kind of go along maybe a patch panel and buzz out things, and you don't want to have to keep glancing over at the display of the meter and just listen for the beep. So I think a multimeter with a decent set of probes that you're familiar with, that's kind of that's the starting point. That's the first thing you really need in your rucksack. And I normally keep in the little pouch where the multimeter is. I normally keep some 75 ohm terms and some video barrels and things like that. So I can go and stick a term up one end of a cable and buzz it from the other end. And so long as I can see the 75 ohm term, then I know there's good continuity and there's no shorts and things like that. But of course, the thing to be aware of is that it might be the wrong cable, and it might be plugged into a piece of video equipment which is probably terminating the cable in 75 ohms. So that's the thing to watch out for. I suppose you could make yourself up maybe a little 1K terminator in a BNC. That would be quite easy to do. Just crimp a resistor into a plug, and then you'd avoid that. But
just don't get it mixed up.
Indeed, yeah. Video levels all over the place, or an SDI signal that won't terminate properly. The other thing is just a handful of tools. So I've stuck up there the picture of the things literally that were in the little bag in my rucksack. And what's here? Well, I've got a crone tool, and a modern crone tool is a useful device because the tolerance in the end is pretty much that you can use it for crone blocks, i.e. on an audio frame, but you can also use them on for punching down the kind of things that telecoms engineers put in, so your BT termination port, and definitely on Cat 5, Cat 6, Cat 7 type patch panels. It's the same style of punch down tools. That's a very useful tool to have. And
okay, so that will fit quite a wide variety of things. It's not just the regular audio crones.
Yeah, for a long time it seemed that most people carry around tools. I'm just reaching over to my shelf and look, here's my Paladin punch down tool, more sort of IT based sort of thing, and I know for a fact that doesn't fit audio crone frames. But I know that my audio punch down tool, like what I'm showing in the picture there, works equally well on both. So I suspect they've probably made these a bit smaller so they fit both styles. They snip the cable off nicely, and it's just the thing. And then I keep a flathead and a posi screwdriver, sort of number 1, number 2 size. I keep a set of T-strips because they're brilliant for stripping cables and for chopping cables, and you've got kind of almost like a plier action at the end. So they're it's an RS T-strip cutters. And I keep a tweaker as well, because as well as often having to adjust things for zero level and things like that, if you're a glasses wearer, the tweak tool comes in handy for tightening up the little screws in your glasses as well. So that's
yes, I've managed to break quite a few tweakers with my glasses. I don't know about you. Just snap the end off and think, oh no. But yes, absolutely.
So once we've got past the multimeter and the little sort of pocket full of tools, I think a mains depth tester, which we alluded to in the mains podcast, so go back and watch that if you've not caught that. But a depth tester is very handy because it will tell you if something's safe or not, and it will. And a lot of them nowadays, particularly the sort of shop bought ones, the ones you get from RS or from the electrical wholesaler, they beep when things are correct, and they'll pulse in different ways when things are wrong. I keep one of these 13 amp ones that I've got up on screen at the moment. I also have a home brewed one, which is just 3 neon lights and a male IC connector, so I can very quickly go down the back of a bay and depth test the whole bay. Now, I mean, with that and your multimeter, you can pretty much do all electrical testing sub having a nice pat tester. So pat testers are far too big to hump around in your rucksack. I've just got one up on the screen, and we talked a lot about pat testers in the mains podcast. But sub those kind of safety testing, thoroughly safety testing something with a pat tester, your multimeter and your depth tester, they cover everything. So again, cheap and small, and sling it in your rucksack. You never know when you might need it, and just kind of keep it there for when you do, sort of thing.
And not expensive, are they? I mean,
by no means. Even those nice shop bought ones are like 20 quid. So if the workshop manager won't tolerate that, move to a different company. So the next thing is a slightly more home brewed type piece of test kit, which if I'm on a build, I'm using it pretty much all the time, and it's just one half of a set of Walkman style earbuds, MP3 style earbuds, where I've just chopped it off the end and stuck on some stout copper wire with like H20 sleeves for holding it. I think I'm currently using the inner core out of HD video cable. I think that's perfect for it. But although this looks like a crazy little home sort of made contraption, it's fantastic because you put that in your ear and you put that on a crone frame or on the back of a piece of equipment or anything, and you can hear audio and you can hear time code. And actually, you can hear analog video as well, because analog video's got 50 hertz field rate, and it's got 16 kilohertz line rate, and you can hear those things in the earpiece. And if just as a quick means of tracing a signal, it's perfect. And it's what else are you going to do? I mean, you're not going to carry a Lindos around with you. You're not going to carry a nice BBC EP14 tester around with you. This kind of covers all your sort of signal tracing requirements if we're talking about analog audio or analog timecode. And the other nice thing about it is that if you're dealing with balanced signals, whether you're working on ABS chrome blocks or whether you're working on 10 pair style chrome blocks with a common earth, you can literally put one of the conductors of your earpiece on the earth, and you can listen to the hot and you can listen to the cold, and you can tell whether what you're missing. So that's the bit of test kit I'm never without, and all the guys who work for me, I always make sure that they've got one as well, because I think that's just so useful
and so easy to do.
Indeed.
Terrific.
And again, it's a cheap little thing. Even if you have to go and buy a £10 pair of earbuds to make a couple of these, it's well worth it. So the next thing, again, another little homebrewed gadget, which I'm never without, and I've got up on screen now. RS422. We still deal with RS422 an awful lot. We still have VTRs, not for very much longer, but also 422 is still a common lingua franca for control on server playout ports.
Yes.
For remotely controlling DVEs and vision mixers, and it's going to be with us for a long time. And so, what is 422? Well, 422 is a balanced serial standard. It's essentially based on RS232, which is a very old modem terminal type interface. But 422, is balanced, so that the transmit and receive signals go down balanced twisted pairs, and then you have a couple of grounds, and the Sony standard, which hails from the early 70s, for remotely controlling 2-inch machines, then 1-inch machines, and all the other formats that have come since, essentially has the RX pair on pins 2 and 7 of a 9-pin D type, and the TX pairs on pins 3 and 8. So if you look at the connector, so we've got one up there. It's a gender changing adapter. 2 and 3. I'm just hovering the cursor over. They're used, and 7 and 8 they're used. And in fact, looking at it, so the RX pair is those two, and the TX pair is those two. And then there's a couple of earths as well. There's pins 4 and 6. They're the signal earths. There's also a chassis earth on there as well, which is pin 1. But most people wire RS422 to use the signal earths. So you've got those signal earths on pins 4 and 6, and then the TX pair and the RX pair. They're pretty much wiremen don't really get the earths wrong. My experience is they always get pins 4 and 6 in the right place, and they always manage to land those on either the screen of the cable if they're wiring it in star quad, or on whichever pair you've nominated in a Cat 6 cable or a Cat 5 cable if you're taking it over data type cable. But what they do often get wrong is the pairs, the transmit and the receive pair. They might get those the wrong way round. They might flip TX plus and minus round, or something like that. And so what this little tester is, it's just 4 resistors. It's a 2K, a 3K, a 7K and an 8K resistor connected to the appropriate pins of the connector. So pin 2 has a 2K resistor, pin 3 a 3K resistor, etc. And then the other sides of the resistors are all common together and connected to pins 4 and 6 on the connector. So when you connect that to the end of a long RS422 run, so I normally carry around a gender changer as well in case, and then at the other end I connect my little piece here with a piece of stout copper wire connected to the screen. I can then just go around the pins, and I can see, these got pins 2 and 3 the wrong way around, because I can see the 2K and the 3K resistor are the wrong way around. And again, it sounds kind of hokey and a bit too homebrewed, but it's got me out of problems so many times. I can remember at one facility we were wiring a very big 42 router, and the wireman made lots of mistakes on there, and just kind of going through the tedium of taking off the shrouds at each end and looking at it and trying to remember the colour code against the against the signal and things like that. Oh, very tedious. But with this, literally having a runner up the other end, and shout next one, next one, next one, you can very quickly, get to the point where you know which ones are at fault. So again, I'm never without that. Very cheap, very easy
really
little
cool.
homebrewed saved but saved me many times.
Very good indeed. I like that.
So galloping swiftly along, the key fob laser pointer that we talked about in the podcast all about fibre optics. So if you remember, we talked about Maplin do them, lots of places do them, little £10 key fob laser pointer for diagnosing faulty splices in fibre optic connections. And again, just easy as. So I'll pop up a picture that shows a faulty splice. You can see the pigtail coming out of the splice protector, and at the other end of the splice protector will be the bulk fibre going off, on the long run loose tube cable, and that little red dot in the middle, which actually is a lot more evident when you're looking at it and not trying to take a photograph with your phone, is the result of me shining a laser in at the other end of the pigtail. And because it's not a perfect splice, the light's scattered, and I can see it coming out. Now, the next the only other piece of equipment that tells me which end the splice is bad is an OTDR, an optical time domain reflectometer, which is a £5,000 piece of equipment. You know, and you talk to any wireman, and if they've determined that there's a fault on a cable, but they can't tell which end it is, you know, it is the case that you will always chop the wrong end, remake the end that was good before you remake the end that was correct. And having
Absolutely.
this little, and the other thing about these funky little laser pointers is that even if it's not a faulty splice, even if you've got a damaged core within the cable, the laser light is often intense enough to actually bleed through the jacket of the cable. So you can you can light up the pigtail end, and you know, if you can see where the cable, where you suspect maybe the cable's been kinked or something, if you can see that red glow coming from within, you know, that's a surefire indicator that you've got problems. So you know, for sub £5,000 fibre testing, the little pocket key fob laser pointer from Maplin or wherever is always a good thing to have. And again, tiny, cheap, sits in the little bag inside your rucksack.
Excellent. And that's one of those few times when actually having less light in the back of the racks is actually a good thing.
Yes, indeed, yes. So we talked about.
Okay, so what's next?
So obviously we talked about mains, we talked about sort of general tools and construction, that kind of thing, and 422 and audio and fibre. The next logical one is data, which is what we spend half of our lives doing nowadays. And so I've just popped up a picture of one of those cheap little £30 Cat 5, Cat 6, Cat 7 type testers. And it's just a gadget that there's a remote terminating end with an RJ45 socket on it and a bunch of LEDs, and then there's a generator end, which again is just a slightly larger unit with a 9-volt battery in it, and it just uses the polarity, the relative polarity between the pins, so that you can tell, you know, whether 1 and 2 are switched around or whatever, and basically you plug it in and it cycles through the pins on the cable, and so long as one counts up while the other's counting up, you know that your cable is terminated correctly. Now, of course, this is just working at DC. There's just a battery in there, and all it's doing is checking the DC performance of the cable. It doesn't tell you anything about whether, you know, maybe you've got pairs swapped around, or maybe you've got one side of one pair swapped with the other side of another pair, which will mean that your common mode rejection on that cable will be severely compromised, and the cable may only take 10 base T traffic. It may only work at 10 megabits per second rather than the 100 megabits or the gigabit that you were hoping for. But as a starting point for diagnosing those kind of faults, it's a very good start. And you know, the next step up, again, it's the mucho expensive machine, and I'm just popping up a picture of the one that we use. I think is reasonably standard in the industry, the Fluke DTX 1800 cable tester. And that's a very elaborate machine. That will tell you, that's a reflectometer. That will tell you everything you need to know about the cable, and will test to whatever the given standard is, and produce a very neat and concise set of notes, which I'm just popping up one of the A4 sheets from the Fluke, so you can see all the things it's testing for. And you know, so in the case of this, it's testing for the wire map, i.e., you know, is pin 1 connected to pin 1, is pin 8 connected to pin 8, which is all that your little pocket tester can do. But this thing also measures skew and near end crosstalk, far end crosstalk, alien crosstalk, all the things that might be important when certifying a connection to gigabit or to 10 gigabit nowadays, 10 gigabit speeds. And but again, you're not going to carry that in your rucksack, and you probably can't afford to have more than one in your facility, because that's a £6,000 machine. So again, with this concept of cheap, easy, light, you know, as far as data testing goes, I think just one of those cheap little Cat 5 testers is just the business, and that's a Lindy one. And probably the best ones, you know, you can spend up to £100 on one of those little pocket ones. ModTap do some very nice ones, which you know, that they're a bit nicer in as much as you don't have to turn them on and off. They sense when they're plugged in, and you know, they could just a bit nicer. But essentially, they're exactly the same type of gadget as the little kind of £50 ones, you know, £30 ones you can buy in the computer store or from your favourite online retailer.
Of course.
So that's data in your rucksack.
Which gets you 90% of the way on most of life's problems, which after all are mostly mechanical, and especially if you're not doing the installation, if you're picking up an install at work but you're walking into something which has gone faulty, these are very useful tools just to help cut down the kind of likely problems. It's not all about the installation. It's about actually the maintenance and firefighting of the situation. So,
well, as ever, it's rare that things spontaneously break. It's rare that things spontaneously fail. And so you're constantly asking the question, what's changed? You know, whether that piece of equipment's been in and out of the rack or whatever. You know, has a cable been damaged or something like that? You know, but if you can get yourself into the position where you can, fault find to the degree that you know what the problem is, then at least you have the option of, you know, swapping out for a different port on the patch panel or something like that. You know, and I kind of find that this is where I'm aiming at. I'm not aiming at, you know, the certification process of finishing an install. We're aiming at get the job working again, getting the VT remote working again from the edit suite kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to that end, just my very best bit of portable test equipment is an old style. Well, you can't get them anymore. Wiremen quite often have them. Those old style BT oscillators, or post office oscillators, I suppose they must have been.
Yes.
But a Fluke do a nice one, and they're kind of about 50 or 60 quid. You can get from RS and those kind of places. But this only just kind of sneaks into the rucksack because it's probably a tiny bit more expensive than all those other bits of sort of 10, 20, 30 quid test equipment, but this one is just so useful because it's an oscillator which I think, if memory serves, generates a 40 kilohertz and a 400 kilohertz oscillating tone, and you've got several modulated versions of, you know, constant tone or warbling, that kind of thing, and it just sticks it out on these two crocodile clips here, and you connect that to, you know, the Crone frame or to the the video patch panel or whatever. And in fact, it even has a nice RJ11. Well, it's an RJ11 connector, so good for telephone sockets, but it doesn't have the side pieces on it, so you can even put it into a Cat5 hole as well. And then the other end, you've got this kind of wand, which when you press the button, it looks, there's a phase lock loop in there, and it looks for those two carriers. And you know, you often see BT guys in the street where they're having to diagnose a fault with a 500 pair twisted pair cable.
Yeah,
a big piece of PSN 500. You know, and the bloke's looking at it because those things, even the color code starts repeating. You know, the color, there are not enough colors to individually mark every pair in the cable, and so all he has to do is wave that wand around until he hears the warble, and then as he gets closer to the pair that's carrying the signal, and it works over miles and miles. You know, that's why you see BT guys setting the oscillator going at the exchange, and you know, at the end of your street, you know, miles away, they can still hear the signal, and so. You know, often where you're in a position where either cables have been cut and the numbers have been removed, or perhaps things haven't been numbered as they should have been, this is just a very nice get you out of jail card, because this will just light up with those two carriers, any style of cable, well, not optical cable, but any style of copper cable, and there's fantastic discrimination. It doesn't seem to bleed into the circuits either side. I've done it on live equipment, and nobody's complained. Nobody's ever said, what's that warbling noise on my recording? I think because the tones are at 40 and 400 kilohertz, so they're just not picked up on analog audio. And you know, it's the Rolls Royce in my rucksack. You know, nothing more elaborate gets in than this. You know, whenever a new engineer starts, I had a new guy start a few months ago, it's kind of one of the first things I buy for them. There you go, that'll be useful, kind of thing, and always works.
So, a bit like Desert Island Discs, there you are. A dreadful thing has happened, and a wave has carried all your tools away except one. Which one is saved?
It would have to be the multimeter, wouldn't it? It would have to be the multimeter. That's the thing because, I mean, you know, that can do so much, can't it? You can measure mains, you can measure DC, you can measure continuity. You know, so. You know, to get you out of jail, I think having a multimeter that you're familiar with is a lifesaver. Yeah. There's one other thing that I always carry, which is invaluable all the time: a good quality LED torch.
Oh yes, yes, definitely.
Particularly when you go on site surveys and somebody says, "Oh, there's the cable riser," and you peer up this dim kind of riser that's got no lighting in it at all. Just having a good quality LED torch has got me out of the poo so many times.
Actually, having said that, something which is also very useful to have. Especially as you're getting on in years, and of course you're not, young man, but I find it very difficult when especially with. You've got grey hair. I haven't got any. I find it quite hard with varifocal lenses to see things at some angles close up. So I whip out my little digital camera, take a snap of it, and then I can see it and zoom into the detail.
Yeah.
Find that it's not a fault finding tool, but a very useful. What the heck is that in there? Snap.
Yes, absolutely, and I don't know if you've ever done that when you're taking something apart, when you're doing a bit of maintenance maybe. It's often handy, isn't it, to photograph it as it comes apart, just in case you kind of forget how it all goes back together again. So I often use the camera in the mighty iPhone for that. I know you're an Android fan, aren't you, Hugh?
I indeed am, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
but I mean, all modern smartphones have got very high resolution cameras in them, haven't they? I mean,
much of a muchness.
Yeah.
There you go, fantastic. Well, I'm sure anybody who's watching will say, "But you've missed out the other favourite thing." So let's have them. Let's find out what you've got in your rucksack. I recently was having trouble with the broadband at our house, and the BT engineer there was sitting, chatting, waiting for his mate to climb up a pole and wriggle the wires or whatever. A bit of frost damage, I think. A connection which had almost failed. Only failed when it was cold enough just to part.
Yes,
the signal was jumping across, but not consistent. And as it got to -10, I think it was, it broke. Anyway, we were chatting about what was in his rucksack coming up to this, of course. Yeah. So it was very interesting. Similarly, yes, any technician or engineer will have a little gadget or collection of things. So we'd like to know what they are, please.
And did he have anything that surprised you? Did he have any bits that we've not sort of talked about?
No, there were one or two things which are esoteric to BT engineers, which are a type 102, blah, blah, blah. Of course, I didn't note the numbers down. But the single most useful tool is the bleeper.
Yes. Because phone engineers quite often carry this thing called an engineer's butt, don't they? Which is a test phone. Which has got enough batteries in it to create 50-volt ringtone and jump across a line and all. I think some of the more modern ones can do ISDN as well, can't they? But,
yes, they can.
Yeah.
He was showing me a fabulous piece of kit, which ran a whole bunch of tests. But he said it will get thrown off if there's any dialing voltage on it, ringing voltage on it.
Right.
So you can't test everything, and for that you really need the older piece of kit, which is impervious to that. So anyway, I don't do BT stuff, so there we are. But fantastic, thank you very much for that, Phil.
Jolly good. Well, I'm just popping up on screen the various places where you can find our podcast. So there's I have a YouTube channel with them on. Blip TV is where you can get the high res versions, and you can get the RSS feed as well. But if you're an iTunes user, if you have an iPhone or an iPod or whatever, or Apple TV, you can get it from iTunes as well. So that's us for now. That was a good half hour. What's coming up, Hugh? What excitement do we have?
A couple of topics. One in particular, thinking about homebrew kit, is with the topical launch of the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
And I was going to get an Arduino for Christmas, and I didn't. My little hopes were all up. Anyway, looks like I'll have to spend my own money. But you've had a play with one, and you've done a few things, and you've come across some useful ways of melding, I think is the phrase, melding dissimilar bits of kit and creating techo bridges. So perhaps we can talk about that.
Yes. So there's three little platforms that I'm interested in. The Raspberry Pi, I've got one on order. Can't wait to get my hands on it. Because that's for people who haven't come across it, and if you've been watching the television or whatever, you listen to the radio, there's been lots about it recently.
It's an absolute exercise in marketing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a charity funded project to produce a real budget Linux computer in something no bigger than a credit card. In fact, they do two versions. They do the A and the B. The A version is not much bigger than a USB memory stick, like you might have on your keyring, and the B version, which comes with networking, is no bigger than a credit card. And the idea is this is to bring the tech back into IT, to encourage school kids to start getting into programming, start getting into homebrewing hardware. Because the chap who founded Raspberry Pi was an admissions tutor at a big university, and he noticed that a lot of his applicants for computer science courses couldn't program at all, and they couldn't do anything other than run Office applications and run Photoshop and things like that. And so it's a very interesting time, sort of bringing back that spirit of the early 80s, where we both kind of cut our teeth with
Yeah.
computers. You know, we had to maybe build your own computer. We maybe had to build
Well,
it from a
indeed.
kit. You know, so that's excellent. But they're not available in number yet. So I'm looking forward to getting hold of one of those. The other, you've mentioned Arduino, which is a fantastic budget sort of prototyping platform, and it's just a little machine that will run something that looks a little bit like C. Programming code, and can has GPIs, GPOs, analog to digital converters. You can get a little network subboard that goes on there, and for not much money, £20-30, those kind of values, you can brew little projects that can talk to networks, that can do those kind of things. And then there's also another platform, the Netium sort of network control board platform, which I've used for a few projects, typically in server rooms for monitoring temperatures and you know, sending emails when air conditioning fails and things like that. So those kind of sort of rapid development prototyping platforms, I think that would make a very interesting podcast, you know, because it's often the case that engineers have to produce a device where they can't find one ready-made, but they need something that can, you know, open a door release or sound an alarm or fire a GPI, you know, based on something else. Or maybe they need to extend serial control between two buildings, and they've only got the internet in the way. So I think that will be a very interesting
I think it'll be a fascinating
thing to talk
chat.
about. So we'll look forward to that.
And then I think possibly coming up after that, we might touch on colorimetry. We were going to talk about it a while ago, and mains and rucksacks and homebrew seem to have crept in. But I think we probably wouldn't do badly just to bring ourselves back to what it's about. It actually pictures on a screen. So
absolutely, that,
so
you know,
that's
so you know, colorimetry is a big favourite of mine. So I look forward to you know, we'll be chatting about that.
But homebrew it is next time. Thanks, Phil.
Okay, jolly good. I will talk to you soon, chap.
I look forward to it. Cheerio.
Lovely. Bye bye.